A few years ago, I had a rather peculiar experience where I found myself breaking into my own house. The backdrop was a bitterly cold winter night in northern China, with temperatures plummeting to -40 degrees, the point where Celsius and Fahrenheit converge. I had just returned from visiting my friend Raouf across town, and as I stood on my front porch, exhausted and freezing, I realized I didn't have my keys. You might wonder, why would I do such a thing? Well, I could see them inside, resting on my dining room table where I'd carelessly left them. I embarked on a frantic effort, testing all the doors and windows, but they were securely locked. Calling a locksmith crossed my mind, but it was already midnight, and their arrival could be delayed. Plus, it was unbearably cold. Going back to Raouf's house was not an option because I had an early morning flight to Europe the next day, and I needed to retrieve my passport and luggage. In my desperate and freezing state, I grabbed a large rock to break through the basement window. I crawled through the shattered glass, hastily covering the opening with cardboard, thinking I would call my contractor to fix it the next day. Yes, it would be costly, but I figured it might be on par with the price of an emergency locksmith. Here's where the story takes an exciting turn. I'm a neuroscientist, so I understand how the brain operates under stress. It releases cortisol, which elevates your heart rate, influences adrenaline levels, and clouds your ability to think clearly. The following morning, I awoke with little sleep, still preoccupied with the broken window, the mental note to contact my contractor, the relentless freezing weather, my upcoming meetings in Europe, and the profound cloudiness of thought from elevated cortisol levels. It wasn't until I reached the airport check-in counter that I suddenly realized I had left my passport behind. I raced back through the snow and ice for 40 minutes in a mad dash to retrieve it, then hurriedly returned to the airport. I arrived just in time, but they had already given my seat away, leaving me crammed at the back of the plane, near the bathrooms, in a seat that wouldn't recline, on an 8-hour flight. During those long hours in the air, with no sleep and plenty of time for reflection, I started pondering whether there were systems I could implement to prevent or, at the very least, mitigate the consequences of such unfortunate events. This incident served as a catalyst for developing a strategy to handle crises, and it's a strategy I want to share with you today. Some of these strategies might seem obvious, but they're critical to have in place because when stress hits, our brain's functioning can become severely impaired. Let's start with the more apparent recommendations. 1. Designate a place for easily lost items. In your home, choose specific spots for frequently misplaced things. For instance, have a hook by the door for your keys or a decorative bowl to place them. Assign a particular drawer for your passport or a table for your reading glasses. Being scrupulous about this will ensure that your items are always where you expect to find them. 2. Secure your important information for travel. Take photographs of your credit cards, driver's license, and passport, and email them to yourself to have the data in the cloud. If these documents are lost or stolen, you can quickly facilitate their replacement. 3. Understand the impact of cortisol on thinking. Recognize that stress causes the release of cortisol in your brain, which can significantly impair your decision-making capabilities. Knowing this, you should plan for stress-inducing situations and devise systems to manage them efficiently. 4. Use the pre-mortem technique. Instead of relying solely on postmortems to analyze what went wrong after a disaster or bad decision, practice prospective hindsight or the pre-mortem. Consider all potential issues and develop strategies to prevent or minimize their impact ahead of time.